This could be my last chance.
Shouldn't be down here.
I can be wherever I want.
Don't shoot!
Dr. Michael Morbius, aka Morbius the Living Vampire, is a Marvel Comics character created by writer Roy Thomas and illustrator Gil Kane. Following his initial status as one of Spider-Man's horror-based rogues, and as an adversary of the vampire hunter Blade, Morbius went on to become a brooding, gritty, and tragically flawed anti-hero in his own series. His true identity is that of a former award-winning biochemist, Dr. Michael Morbius, who was imbued with pseudo-vampiric superhuman abilities and physical traits after a failed biochemical experiment intended to cure his rare blood disease. The rest of his appearances feature his struggles with his pseudo-vampiric persona, his insatiable lust for human blood, and his subsequent efforts to cure his horrific condition, along with his eventual stint as a brutal and nightmarish vigilante that occasionally returned to villainy. Born and raised in Greece by his mother, Michael experienced an isolated childhood due to his rare blood condition, which contributed to his unpleasant appearance. Despite this, he was intellectually gifted and, in time, became a highly respected Nobel Prize-winning biologist, specializing in the field of human and animal biology with a medical degree in hematology. Leaving Greece for New York, he began work on a cure for his condition. To this end, he used a mixture of vampire bat DNA and electroshock therapy, among other methods. Unfortunately, this instead afflicted him with pseudo-vampirism that mimics some of the powers and bloodlust of supernatural vampirism. Morbius now had to drink blood in order to survive, and had a strong aversion to light. His bones became hollow, and he gained the ability to fly, as well as developing superhuman strength, speed, and accelerated healing. His appearance, already unfavorable, now became hideous. His upper canine teeth extended into fangs, his nose flattened to appear more like that of a bat's, and his skin became chalk white. He also gained the ability to turn others into similar living vampires like himself by biting them and drinking their blood, thereby infecting them with his disease. Morbius debuted in The Amazing Spider-Man issue number 101 after the Comics Code Authority lifted a ban on vampires and certain supernatural characters, which is ridiculous considering it was just a form of self-censorship. It was the first issue of Marvel Comics' flagship Spider-Man series, written by someone other than co-creator and editor-in-chief Stan Lee. Lee'd been busy writing a screenplay for an unproduced science fiction movie and passed the series to his right-hand editor, Roy Thomas. We were talking about doing Dracula, but Stan wanted a costumed villain. Other than that, he didn't specify what we should do, Thomas said in 2009. Thomas and Kane created Morbius as a man who was given pseudo-vampiric abilities and traits via scientific rather than supernatural means.
What did you do to yourself, Doctor? I wish I knew.
A tragic and sympathetic antagonist in his initial two-issue story arc, Morbius collided with Spider-Man once more in Marvel Team-Up issue number 3-4, published between July to September of 1972, and the one-shot issue Giant-Sized Superheroes issue number 1, published in June of 1974. He went on to star in Vampire Tales, a black and white horror comics magazine published by Marvel's sister company Curtis Magazines, appearing in all but 2 of the mature audience titles' 11 issues between August 1973 to June of 1975. After his first 2 Vampire Tale stories, Morbius concurrently became the star of his own feature in Marvel's bi-monthly Adventure Interfere anthology series, beginning with issue number 20, published in February of 1974, and continuing through to the finale, issue number 31, published in December of 1975. Following sporadic guest appearances throughout the next 16 years, Morbius was revived in the 1992 series Morbius the Living Vampire, launched as part of the Rise of the Midnight Suns crossover story arc. Running for 32 issues, its later stories added to his repertoire of powers the ability to hypnotize others, and described his flight as psionic in nature. Morbius has been transformed into a being similar to a vampire, and, as a result, possesses a number of superhuman abilities, similar to those possessed by true vampires. He possesses superhuman strength, the extent of which depends on the amount of blood he has ingested and the type of blood. He can run and move at superhuman speeds, with reflexes that are beyond the natural physical limits of the finest human athlete. His enhanced musculature produces less fatigue toxins during physical activity than those of a normal human. Thus, he can physically exert himself at peak capacity for several hours before the buildup of fatigue toxins in his blood begins to impair him. Morbius's agility, balance, and bodily coordination are enhanced to levels that are beyond the natural physical limits of an Olympian. His senses of sight and smell are also enhanced, giving him eagle-like instincts and the ability to detect objects with perfect clarity at great distances. He retains his clarity even in near total darkness, and is able to see into the infrared end of the electromagnetic spectrum, enabling him to see individuals at night by their body heat alone. His senses of smell is similarly enhanced, and he can detect the scent of blood in the air from miles away. Like true vampires, Morbius possesses an accelerating healing factor that enables him to rapidly regenerate damaged bodily tissue much faster and more extensively than a normal human. Injuries such as gunshots, cuts, and severe burns heal within minutes to hours, depending on their severity. With that said, these healing powers aren't able to regenerate missing limbs or organs as they would with normal vampires. Like supernatural vampirism, Morbius possesses elongated canines that he uses to pierce the flesh of other beings for the purposes of consuming their blood. He also has a single sharp retractable claw at the tip of each finger that can cut through both flesh and bone like a hot knife through butter. Through mental concentration, he's able to glide through the air over short distances at speeds of about 35 miles an hour. After absorbing elements of the Lylan into his bloodstream, Morbius gained the ability to hypnotize others if they look directly into his eyes long enough. Of course, if an individual has sufficient willpower, they can actually resist or overcome this. As mentioned earlier, Morbius is able to transform individuals into pseudo-vampires that he can control by draining them of their blood. These converted vampires have superhuman strength, but don't possess accelerated healing factors, and upon receiving lethal injuries, their body simply turn to dust. Because Morbius isn't a supernatural vampire, he's pretty much immune to all of the special mystical vulnerabilities that they have. He's unaffected by religious icons like crucifixes, and will not incinerate if exposed to direct sunlight. While he can't be killed by sunlight, his eyes and skin are sensitive to it. He also has no special vulnerability to objects or weapons composed of silver or wooden stakes, which if driven through his heart will only aggravate him. His greatest weakness is one that traditional vampires must also contend with: the feverish need to consume fresh blood several times a week in order to maintain physical and mental vitality. The longer he goes without blood, the weaker he becomes, and the more likely he is to lose control. On the topic of losing control, his frustration with his affliction, coupled with his insatiable hunger, cause him to suffer from visual and auditory hallucinations when he goes without feeding. While he's had no formal training, these powers alone make him a formidable adversary. The upcoming Sony flick Morbius, starring Jared Leto as the titular character, will be directed by Daniel Espinosa, and looks as though it's going to focus on his origin story. We know that this will be fitting in with Sony's Spider-Man universe, along with Venom, and that Michael Keaton will be reprising his role as Vulture in some form. But of course, I'd love to hear what you guys think will be happening in the new film, so please share this in the comments below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, come join our regular streams on Twitch, and yeah, if you have any other suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. As always, it's been a pleasure. Niyat here with Film and Comics Explained. Thanks for stopping by.